Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the webinar Connecting Business Relationship Managers in Australia. Featuring a guest speaker this afternoon is John Krogh, and we look very much forward to John's presentation. You'll see on your web screen that we've opened with the certifications page of APMG. For those who don't know APMG, we are an exam institute. Been around for over 20 years, and if you look through that page you will see that we have a wide range of courses, and today we're in products, and today we're particularly focusing on the BRMP and CBRM, Business Relationship Management. We're going to come back at the end of John's presentation. We will look at these and in a little bit more detail, because there's a very good frequently asked questions that we have there. So what I'd like to do now is hand over to John. I'm going to make John the presenter. John Krogh is, as I make John the presenter, John is coming out to Australia for the BRM Connect event in Sydney on the 28th and 30th of June. It's great to see John. John's a managing partner of Instrumental BRM Consulting, and he will be conducting some training prior to the event. So today, and I really like to also acknowledge the support we've had from Kayla and other people, the BRMI Institute, in preparing this today. So John, welcome. It's 7 p.m. where you are. John has already showed me a fantastic view of where he is in British Columbia. Makes me look out my window in Australia here, and it's a lovely cool winter's day in Canberra. But John, welcome, and we look forward to your presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Just do a quick check here and make sure that you can see my presentation okay?
Yes, I certainly can, John, and your sound levels are great. Thank you.
Excellent. And I will, I'll briefly turn on my camera. There we go. So everyone gets a little bit of a view of who I am, and if any of you are going to show up at the conference, the BRM Connect conference in June, then you'll know who to look for and who to give a hard time. So I really look forward to seeing a lot of people there. I also got to brag a little and quickly show the view.
I thought
everybody the view.
Look at that! Look at that! Well done, John.
Yeah. So it's I'm out here in this is my stress relief center, my property in the mountains in British Columbia in Canada. So I'm out here doing a bunch of renos. But I'll take my screen off now and I'll jump right into the presentation so we don't waste any time. Take the camera off, and so basically it's kind of informal, so I'm hoping there's going to be a lot of questions here. We're going to cover, I want to talk a little bit about you know, the BRM Connect, the conference that's coming up, but also talk about the opportunity that is BRM. I use the term all the time, nature abhors a vacuum, and there certainly has been a vacuum in this space for a lot of years. A lot of organizations are trying to find ways to get the maximum value out of IT and find ways to up the game, and there's really not been a body of knowledge or a best practice affiliated with that or associated to that until recently, and we're really seeing the uptake in it with my organization, Instrumental BRM. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll jump right to the next slide here, if it lets me. There we go. So the purpose or the agenda is to, I got these few slides that are going to talk about the purpose, what is business relationship management. A lot of people have heard the term, they know it's a title, but really what is it about? So I'm not going to turn this into a business relationship management course, but I certainly would like to give you enough to whet your appetite so that it becomes intuitive to you, that you start to understand the value in this body of knowledge and the value in the accreditations associated with it. I'm going to talk about the BRM Institute. I'm not an owner. I'm not it's a not-for-profit, but I'm not an owner, and I get nothing out of this. But I'm going to say very pointedly, I've been involved with organizations for the better part of 30 years now, you know, from ITSMF to, you know, ISACA and many, many different organizations. And there's not one out there that even comes close to the collaborative nature that exists within this organization and the value of being a member. So I make that plug right now. For people should really look into that, and they should investigate what's there. And it's value for everyone. It's value for people trying to do business in this space, and it's value for people who are trying to actually accomplish something in this space. So it's something I encourage you to look into. I can talk about the BRMI body of knowledge. It's a really unique body of knowledge as well, not like PMBOK or other ones out there. This, I'm hesitant to use the word organically forms, but there's so many contributors to it that it's this rapidly changing and morphing and improving body of knowledge that is tremendously valuable for organizations out there. So we'll talk about that and talk about accredited business relationship management training. There's now 2 courses which I'll expand on, and then we'll talk about BRM Connect, what's happened so far. BRM Connect is the networking series of events, conferences and such that have happened so far, and the one that's coming up in Sydney. I have a slide just to talk a little bit about what it's been like as an ATO. My company is an ATO. We have been for governance, things like COBIT and portfolio management and ITIL and, you know, service management, those type of things, as well as we are an ATO for BRM. And I think we were the second ATO, or very early in the cycle, anyways. And I want to talk a little bit about what that market's been like for us, so it'll be a little bit of a shameless plug at that point. And then there'll be opportunity for some questions at the end, but you know, as Lowry is monitoring this, I encourage you to just submit your questions as we go. If anyone has any questions that are appropriate for the slides that we're on, I don't mind being interrupted partway through. All right, so the purpose of this presentation is really to provide information about business relationship management, provide information about the BRM Institute. I have a typo. At BRM Institute, we talk about the BRM training opportunities that are there, and talk about BRM Connect. I'll make sure that that's corrected. So BRM Connect is happening in Sydney and on 28th to 30th. That's the main conference dates, but there's some pre-conference activity as well. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about business relationship management, and I promise not to turn this into a course. Some of you in attendance here might be fully aware of what business relationship management is all about, but I just want to make sure that we are reasonably comfortable with what we're talking about here. The formal definition that BRMI has come up with is business relationship management. It's a long, I apologize for a long sentence here, and I'll read it out and then I'll explain it. But business relationship management stimulates, surfaces, and shapes business demand for a provider's products and services and ensures that the potential business value from those products and services is captured, optimized, and recognized. Now, what I tell people quite often is to look at this and think about look at it like a bookending thing. You got 2 bookends. On one side, we got this stimulate, surface, and shape business demand. And when you look at an organization and you look about all the ways that organizations lose value in IT, it's often because we don't manage the demand very well. We hear complaints quite often from the business that says IT is, we're sick and tired of IT working on, $1,000 solutions when we need them working on $10,000 solutions. I'm just throwing a dollar figure out in there, but we're not prioritizing. We're not shaping that business demand in a way that we can meet with the supply in the most optimum way. but also there's lots of demand that doesn't even get surfaced. So we need to stimulate and surface that demand. How many opportunities are there where the business just says, I can't get IT to keep up with the demand I'm throwing at them now. Last thing I'm going to do is try and come up with more work for them. So they assume that certain types of things can't be done. It's going to be too much effort and too much work. And BRM's job is to really surface those opportunities to add more value and to look at helping to find ways to prioritize and making sure that we're shaping that demand in ways that we can provide the most value. On the other end of this, remember I said it's the bookending piece. On the other end of this, we have to make sure that the value is captured, optimized, and recognized. And this is the other end of IT. How often do initiatives happen where we get 90% of the way there and then we fail to do the training that's required, or often IT delivers value that the business isn't even made aware of. A prime example of that is, when we design systems that are highly resilient and made for, with failover and made to assure that they're going to be highly available. And when those systems come into play and failover actually happens, the business never knows about it. They as far as they know, everything's just working fine. BRM should be actively marketing the value that IT is bringing to the table. The whole idea is to raise the conversation from IT as a cost center to IT as a value center. And BRMs, many organizations are looking at BRMs to do that. So lots of talk here. In all honesty, I could talk all day on this slide alone. It really is, there's organizations, organization after organization are assigning people the accountability of assuring that we manage the value of that investment that we make in IT. And until recently, there wasn't a decent body of knowledge to help support that. And that's the fundamental thing that's changed here. All right, if I spend that much time on every slide, we're in trouble. So I got to keep us moving. So why? More than any time in history, businesses are under pressure to extract more value out of their IT investments, and they're looking to BRM to enable this. The BRM discipline is formalizing around BRMI's best practice framework. And we see this. It's not like there wasn't some good knowledge out there, but it wasn't centralized, and it wasn't getting beaten up by the industry and tested in multiple scenarios and refined and improved. And this is exactly what's happening now. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice here. All right, so this is exactly what's happening now with the BRMI body of knowledge. And some of the clients that I'm working with, it's exactly what they're doing is they're saying to IT, look, what we need from you now is we need you to help us innovate. We need you to help us take our business to the next level. We're not looking at IT to be just this infrastructure center of base services that allows us to do our day-to-day activities, but how can you help us differentiate, be different than our competitors out there in the marketplace? And the BRMIs are being tasked with that, and this body of knowledge is certainly the #1 toolkit that they have at their disposal. All right, so the Business Relationship Management Institute was incorporated in March 2013. It had the mission to define, inspire, value, and promote the key traits of effective business relationship management. This is, it was started via a LinkedIn group, and it was started by Aaron Barnes, Vaughn Merlin, and Alexander Zook, I believe, and I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. But they were primarily the three co-founders, and they had started a LinkedIn group because they found that there just wasn't a great place for people to really collaborate. And very, very quickly there was a huge uptake in people who joined that group, and the correspondence was massive. So the three of them decided, you know, you should look into this a little bit more. Maybe there's an opportunity to turn this into something bigger. And they certainly did that. By 2014, things were well underway. And 2015, it just skyrocketed. I got some stats for you in a moment, but in 2015, it just skyrocketed. So what does Business Relationship Management Institute do? There's probably lots more than this that I don't know of, but the things that I get exposed to as a business relationship management and governance consultant, and also as an owner of an ATO that delivers a significant amount of BRM training, these are the things that I'm concerned with. There's a BRMI BOK, a great body of knowledge that is, like I said, it's quite fluid and living. It's constantly got new things. You have to, you not have to, but you benefit a lot by spending a good deal of time in there. Quite valuable. There's an online campus. The online campus is you know, you become a member, you can post questions. It's a typical forum kind of setup. The fundamental difference here is it's not idle. You know how some groups that you belong with, end up having questions that just don't get answered, or sections stay quiet for a long time. You're not going to see much of that here, because as a matter of fact, you're likely to get responses from C-level individuals. There's a lot of really well-known CIOs that are members of BRMI, and they're actively involved in the online campus. When I'm consulting, occasionally I come across a situation and I'm not exactly sure what to tell my client, or how to, you know, what the best approach is. I might have an idea. I float it out there on the campus, and it's the great responses you get back, the amount of sharing that happens is absolutely incredible. So here I am promoting a BRMI, but it's a really, really incredible thing. BRMP. So there's 3 levels of certification, and I have slides for them. We'll talk about them a little bit more. But there's BRMP certification, which is now well underway, and many people have been trained up to this point. We'll talk a little bit about numbers in a moment, or statistics anyways. CBRM is more of a practitioner level, and it is brand new. It's the inaugural course is just happening as we speak. But there's going to be an uptake of that, and the MBRM, the Managing Business Relationship Management, is going to be is still got to be developed, so it's not quite in place yet. And we're also going to talk about BRM Connect. I want to really get you guys to put some thought into BRM Connect and how to get the most value out of it. It's you know, like I said, I've been involved in this type of work both as a practitioner, when I used to lead an IT group prior to going out on my own, and all the way through to now. And I've been involved in conferences, and I've never gone to a conference where the relationships you build, the connections you make, are at a better level than this is, as far as building business and building opportunity. So it really is, you know, I'm shameless about that. It really is valuable. So we'll talk a little bit more about those. I want to talk just briefly. This is the only slide I pulled in from the BRM body of knowledge, BRM BOK. I bring in this slide because this is the slide we use to kind of talk about the whole scope of business relationship management. And some of you may have seen this before, but so I want to go through it fairly quickly. When we talk about this house of BRM, we talk about the fact that we have a roof of the house of BRM here. And the roof is all about the clarity of the BRM role in any given organization. So it's in context of what that organization's strategy is and their operating model. You know, what do you do as a BRM? What does another person do as a BRM? I go into some organizations and the BRM is 3 layers buried below the CIO, has very little influence, and is very, very operational in nature and is providing a certain amount of value to the business. I go into the next organization that I'm working with, and that the BRM is actually on the right hand of the CIO at all times and helping to execute on the strategy of the organization. It's a very strategic position. So those are 2 extreme examples. The clarity of this role, the clarity of this roof, helps us understand everything that's below this. All right, so we have, one of the things we do is demand shaping. I talked a little bit about what that is. You know, understanding the demand that's coming at us and making sure we can prioritize it and understand how to best build responses to it. Exploring is, you know, looking for further opportunities, looking for how do we expand IT's value proposition for the business. I'm just going through this very quick. Servicing is how IT is going to actually deliver on that. And this is, you know, I often tell people when you think about servicing in BRM, think a little bit about ITIL and service management, but it's an outside-in perspective as opposed to an inside-out perspective. And I don't mean inside-out in an insulting way to ITIL, but ITIL is all about, I'm an IT provider and how do I build services and deliver them. BRM looks at it and says, I need this value. What kind of services do I need to get that value? It's just a different perspective, and it's extremely valuable. And then the last one is value harvesting, making sure that we are not dropping the ball on, you know, just delivering a project. When the project's done, we think we're finished and we don't have to do anything else. And I mean, there's much more to it than that, but value harvesting is about assuring that we get the value, the maximum, optimum value that we can out of our investments. Anyways, this is this are the 4 pillars, the 4 primary categories that every organization is going after when they are pursuing business relationship management. Now, what does a BRM need to be successful in this is the 6 elements below it: strategic partnering, business intelligence, portfolio management, provider, information about the provider, so if it's IT or whatever type of provider they are, communication skills, business transition management, which is also known as organizational change management. So I don't want to spend a lot more time on this, but I guess the fundamental message I would like you guys to take away, like you to think about, is when you establish a clear vision. So I'm going back to the roof for a moment. Imagine you're working with an organization that is going after business relationship management aggressively, and you establish a clear definition, a clear articulation of the role that BRM is going to play in that organization. Once you do that, you can start to understand your clear goals and objectives for each of the 4 pillars. And based on that, a whole realm of consulting, a whole realm of training, a whole realm of competencies that those BRMs need to develop in order to help support the organization in delivering these elements starts to come into play. And you know, so I'm actually putting on my managing partner of Instrumental BRM hat here for a moment, and I'm really trying to spread some of the excitement that's related to this, because it really does open up all kinds of opportunities in organizations once you start to open that business relationship management door, because now the question is, all right, we want to do it, how are we going to do it? And it's a matter of making sure that we have all the competencies we need to support the pillars that we have to achieve our objective at the top of this. All right, major soapbox moment there, so I want to I'll move on from that. All right, I got a slide here for each of the official accredited courses that are offered through APMG accreditation, but they're BRMI courses. So, and they're available for ATOs. Two of them are available now for ATOs. The first one is BRMP. It stands for Business Relationship Management Professional. It's a foundation level course. It is it's intended for business relationship managers. It's with the training and certification designed to provide a solid baseline level of knowledge. It really is the what we're going to do. It's what is business relationship management. It's it's like every foundation course. It is setting a common language, getting people to use common terminology, and getting people to really get that excitement level of what potential there really is. It's typically run as a 3-day course that immerses the student in principles of business relationship management, includes an exam on the 3rd day. But so it's offered, it's instructor-led on-site and online. As an instructor, my preference is on-site because of the interaction you can have and the intensity. This is a very intensive course to deliver. I deliver a lot of them. The type of questions you get are not entry-level questions. These are people who are facing real challenges every day with business relationship management, with value leakage and value loss, and you're going to get some really tough questions thrown your way. But if you're like me, that's also really exciting. It keeps you on your toes, and it keeps the course very interesting. The demand has been, for us, very, very high, and the nice thing about this is when you are marketing to the business relationship managers, in most cases you're marketing to the decision makers or people very, very close to the decision makers. So it definitely works quite well. So this is BRMP, which is alive and well today and moving at a very good pace and growing. The next one is CBRM. Certified Business Relationship Manager. This is more practitioner level. If BRMP was the what, this is largely the how. It's a training and certification program. It's intended for candidates who've already earned the BRMP certification. There's lots more to this, and as Lowry was telling you, there's a bunch of frequently asked questions online worth looking at. CBRM course is Avon, who's delivered the inaugural course here, he's aiming for a 4-day course. We're humming and hawing now because it's brand new. As a matter of fact, the first class is just wrapping up here. We're debating on whether to go to a 5-day course, but there'll be some flexibility there with a minimum amount of hours that's required. It's very much a hands-on case study kind of approach. And it's a little bit unique in that the certification, you get it for 3 years once you pass the exam, but to continue that, you need to keep the certification, you need to show continuous education requirements, sort of like PDUs if you're with the project management PMI. I don't know if that's as big over there as it is here, but that's one thing that's in place. There's also probably going to be a fee every 3 years as well. I'm not sure if that got finalized with BRMI or not, but my understanding is that the fee will be waived for members of BRMI, which is, you should really, if you're involved in this at all, if you're a business relationship manager, that'll be the best investment you've ever made. So anybody should be a member. They're up at like 15,000 members now in this short of a time, so it gives you an idea how active it is. There's yet one more. This is the MBRM, Managing Business Relationship Management in there twice, but it's this is the master level, and it's still it says to be developed, but it's even more than that. There's still strategic questions that need to be answered about what does it mean to be a master's level, and what is the purpose of it. But they're working on it, and that's something that that will come out through a whole bunch of collaboration with the different groups that are involved. So those are the 3 courses to date. Some statistics. BRMI now has 15,000 members, and that is no small achievement. That is incredibly significant for a very niche part of IT. These are not just IT, but it's also the business. But these are people that are tasked with increasing the value transferred from the provider to the business, and making sure that the relationships are fostered, and it's a very active membership. 2015 saw 500% growth in BRMP over 2014, so a 5 times number of courses and individuals being trained in business relationship management professional. And in 2016, this trend is still growing. Maybe not the 500%, but in the first quarter of 2016, they actually achieved 50% of what was achieved in all of 2015. So it's really growing, and it's not just in North America. It did start there, but it's now been delivered in 16 countries, and there's lots and lots of opportunity for future growth. All right, and the last concept that I really want to dive into is about BRM Connect. It's the world's one and only networking and professional development event series for business relationship managers. This is some conferences. I've had the first one last year. I'll jump forward. They had the inaugural one last year in Portland, and it was incredibly exciting to have the first conference. Everybody was so into it, and so trying to understand how do we take this to a whole new level. And it was I've been in this industry for so long, and I've been to so many conferences. I'm not gonna badmouth different conferences, but they do start to all feel the same. They all start to feel like sometimes they put on a good show, and there's really good food, and there's some good entertainment and some good speakers, but it's still the same thing. You forget half of the stuff that's been said as soon as you've been away for a week or so. I'll tell you that conference in Portland stuck with me. The excitement for that stuck with me for at least half a year. I was still getting contacted by people that I made contacts with, and as a sponsor, my company was I credit a lot of our growth in 2015 and 2016 due to the influence we had at the Portland conference. So it was incredibly valuable, and everybody there was really excited about the networking and actually to meet other people that are having the same challenges and the same problems that they're having, that you're having. It was incredibly valuable, and we saw this move right into 2016, where BRMI is taking a different approach. So they decided, because things had gone global so fast and gotten into so many different countries, they decided to try and spread some of this around. And they had the first session was in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we moved to the east coast of the U.S. as opposed to the west coast where Portland was. And so that conference just went. It was held at a racetrack, and it was very exciting. People got to network and got to get involved in a bunch of activities, and there were some great presentations. The next one, of course, which we're talking a little bit more about here today, is in Sydney in June. Then there's one in Banff, close to my hometown in Alberta in Canada. And that's in September. And then there's one in the Netherlands in October. So very exciting as far as opportunities for very exciting as far as opportunities for ATOs to network with the right people, for BRMs to be able to meet with other BRMs or to meet with experts. I have never been involved, I know I'm really pushing this, but I've never been involved with a community that shares as much as this community does. And you know, I tell this to my clients all the time. I may be a consultant and I may be in this industry for you know, I may be in this industry to make my living, but there is no better place to get advice and guidance than from a peer who's gone through the same pain or is going through the same pain. Being involved with these type of events is absolutely huge for you. So I strongly recommend that. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Sydney. So there's pre-conference training. There's it's my company actually bid on that opportunity. It was open to all existing ATOs, so we bid on that and won that. And we are going to be providing BRMP training before the conference, and it's at there's a really good discount. So if you get that along with your training, along with your conference, so I strongly recommend people who need to get their BRMP certification, that's a good place to look at the opportunity. And there's going to be a lot of BRM experts presentations and workshops. I'm going to be giving a presentation. I'm looking forward to that. But there's going to be a lot of great speakers there. I know not all of them, but I know quite a few of them, and some of them are incredibly exciting. So I think you're going to really enjoy that. We're also going to be putting on, it's actually a few people are putting this on, Grab It Pizza BRM simulations. So Grab It Pizza is...
the mind boggles.
Yes.
What is Grab It Pizza? The mind boggles. I've got a different image of everyone, you know, hovering around a pizza. Is it? Please tell us.
Yeah, well,
what is it?
There will be pizza.
Right,
so let's just start with that. There will be pizza. But in addition to that, Grab It Pizza is a excellent. It's just the simulation is such a phenomenal tool, and we use it at the conference to really get people excited about how this can be used in different scenarios. So what it does is it's a game that you play, and you're running a pizza business, but not just a business. This is a massive chain, right? It's largely believed to emulate Domino's Pizza in the U.S., but it's a massive organization, and IT has to enable the growth plans for this pizza company, and the plans that come out have is played in rounds, and what happens is the IT has to deliver value and manage changes and manage all the operation stuff without hurting the business, and actually respond to changes in the business. And then the facilitator, myself and others, will actually walk them through. And I'll make it very clear, the way it's set up is the first round, everybody who's involved totally fails, and it's actually a little bit frustrating. You get all this anxiety about you're trying to do all the right things, but then we talk about and we structure, well, if someone was responsible for building this relationship, and if this relationship existed over here, and we did this, we did that, and so we set up some improvements, and then we get another round to happen, and we play another round of the game, and everybody's involved, and there's all kinds of excitement going on, and changes and incidents and all kinds of issues that are happening, as well as, you know, new opportunities for innovation and so on. And things are a little bit better, but still not perfect. And every round that you do, you can do this in multiple ways, but every round that you do, it can get a little bit more it gets a little bit more polished, and we call it experiential learning. So this is very different than just having someone stand in front of you and talk. This is you're living and breathing and feeling the pain, and then you're feeling how the new approach, the benefits, is actually taking some of that pain away. And I tell you, nothing turns the key of willingness among stakeholders than going through that kind of an event. So we're putting that on at the conference as well. I shouldn't say just us. We are certainly involved, my company, but BRMI is behind this, and there's other entities involved as well.
Okay,
so
thank you. It's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
We've got a few questions, John. We might have to move on. We've got a number of questions that I just want to cover if we can on the event and others.
Sure, I am having a little trouble hearing you there.
Is that better now?
Yes, it is. Much better.
Yeah, sorry, we've got a few questions coming in, so we might just move through the other group events and networking. It's over 3 days, I believe, 28th, 29th of June?
Yes.
Okay.
28th, 29th, 30th, yeah.
Yep, and we'll have the connections for people to book on. I'll happily send people the link there, but if they just put BRM Connect Sydney, it'll certainly come up for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great,
yeah.
Great.
Is there any other questions?
No, well, there's another question.
Okay.
I've got 3 other questions, sorry. Person wrote in and said, if I'm selling BRMP into an organisation, and why should, someone's trying to sell it as a training course, who would I go to? I think it was a really interesting question. Who would I initially, should I knock on the door of the CIO, or should I knock on the door of the change manager? Who do you see buys some of the courses? I thought that was a very interesting question from Sandy. So.
Let me just see here. You know what? I really only have 1 slide left. So let me do this slide, and then I'll hit those questions.
Okay.
It's an excellent question, so I'm not gonna push that aside. But I want to just quickly, because I think I'm going to cover a little bit of that when I talk about, what my experience has been as an ATO being involved in this. So it's so we were a platinum level sponsor. One of the key things that come out of being heavily involved with BRMI like I said, we sponsor not just the conference. We sponsor because we see huge value in the organization, but we also sponsor the conferences, and we attend those conferences where possible. It's not so possible in Australia, but where possible, we have a big contingency of our staff there because we just see huge value in it. We make a lot of contacts there, and it's, like I said, many of them are C-level. CIOs, CFOs, and CTOs, but there's regardless of whether they're C-level or not, they're a much more focused audience than any other conference I've been to. They're very much a group of people that have been tasked with this accountability. Maybe they don't use the term BRM, but they're tasked with this accountability, and they don't know where to begin. And this is an excellent starting point for them. And then of course the connections are very high value. What I'd like to do now is quickly jump into that question. Marketing, I'll just move forward to questions here. Marketing the BRMP course there is one difficult element of it, in that it's a really difficult thing to market to an organization that isn't already asking the questions about what is business relationship management, or how do we do business relationship management, because many organizations, the decision makers, what we're finding right now is the decision makers are all asking the question, what is BRM, and how do we go after it? Because there's case study after case study after case study of organizations that are doing this. So what we find is many organizations are actually just assigning it to somebody or to a group of people, saying, okay, well, we'll have 4 BRMs, and then they tell these BRMs, go out and establish a BRM capability in the organization, and then those BRMs are like, okay, where do we begin? What do we start with? And we've found that the vast majority of our marketing efforts have not been push marketing, they've been pull marketing, which is, you know, making sure that organizations know that we're a player in this market space, that business relationship management professional is the starting point. It is the base training that everyone needs, and usually in all honesty, that's how our pipeline's been primarily filled. We've contacted a lot of, you know, we used to do a lot of ITIL. I shouldn't say used to. We still do a fair bit of ITIL training, but BRM has certainly surpassed our ITIL and COBIT space significantly. We found that going in and talking to the contacts we had at those levels in the ITIL and governance space had minimal results because it's a very different market. But as soon as we let the industry know that we had the BRM training and we started to market that aggressively through social media, the leads started coming in quite aggressively.
You're right. Thank you, John, because I think that's an important point. It is a niche area, but it's a bit like sort of where change was 2 or 3 years ago, and now we see what's happening with change. You know, it's certainly opened up doors into the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, or into the change area. So that's really interesting. Just a comment came in there about the conference, and look, thank you very much, Marlene Lundy. Marlene is the BRMI's events manager, and I've just posted there, Marlene's offered a registration discount to any person on this call. You see on the chat line of 10% for individuals, 15% for groups, and there's some details there. So thank you, Marlene. That's if anyone would like to take action to that, please just email me. One of the things, 2 more questions, and we've got about 8 or 10 minutes. Terry has said, Terry, it's interesting, I mailed this out to a number of our ATOs and my contacts, and I've got a very interesting colleague, Terry. Terry said, I do that every day, Laurie, as a project manager or a program manager. What's the difference? I thought that was really interesting. He feels that as a project manager and a program manager, he's constantly interfacing between business. I'd like your answer. I had it, and then just check it with my answer that I gave Terry. So may I ask your answer to that question? I do it every day. What's the difference?
Yeah, it's interesting because we do a lot of in a lot of the training courses that we have. There's always attendees that are from the PMO and the project management office, or they have a very strong project management focus. There's a bit of a disconnect in the current state of the union as far as the project management world and value management worlds. And project management, the ability to execute, the horsepower it takes to get from point A to point B in any given strategy is absolutely critical. And I don't mean to downplay it at all. It's really, really important. But once you've delivered your final deliverable, who's accountable for the value that that project was supposed to deliver? You know, most business cases are actually sold on the idea that 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, sometimes 5 years after a project goes live, we will recoup our investment and start making a significant profit. When I train organization after organization, I consult organization after organization, I always ask them, who's accountable for going back and looking 12 months, 24 months, 5 years after, and looking at how well did we execute against that business case? Did we do any adjustments after the project went live? Did we do any adjustments at 6 months, at 1 year? Who's managing value all the way through? Now that's the end of the project management. Like, that's post-project management. But there's also pre-project management. Who's accountable for surfacing ideas and concepts that haven't even made it into any kind of project management funnel yet? It's not even an idea that anyone has really come up with yet. Who's accountable for spurring and increasing and improving those ideas? I think that BRM training at the BRMP level is really, really good for people who work in the project management space, but they will recognize quickly that only a portion of it will be their accountability.
Yeah, no, that's...
It's much broader than that, and I don't mean that in an insulting way at all.
No, I think I can give myself 6 out of 10 for my answer. But my answer was like that. I said you've got a benefits plan or a plan in a business case. Your project or program will finish at some point. It will be going back to business as usual, and that's the interface. So I think I give myself 6 out of 10. But I can probably answer to Terry, if you're listening, Terry, when you hear the recording. There's probably John's answer was far more eloquent than mine. Last question here. I think there were 2 other questions. We can just fit them in. Breakdown of people who are members of BRMI, and I think it's sort of, do they come from the project management area or the business analyst BA area or change managers? If you had to put a sort of a rough graph of your membership, I'm interested who's the type of people that are in the BRMI.
That's interesting. I think. Let me see if I can get at it really quickly while I talk here, but there's...
I have one question while you're doing that. I have someone that says all of them are involved, which I sort of thought, but I was just interesting if there's I'll raise my question from Sandy, and it was who is the, when you look at the pioneers in this area, who are typically the pioneers?
Mm-hmm. So let's explore that question just a little bit. So here's on the BRMI website. Here's some information about the membership demographics right now. The different groups it comes from, the countries. You can see the U.S., but it's rapidly growing outside of the U.S. now. Function and information technology, business management, business strategy, consultant. So these are, the different groups that are involved. So there's a fair bit of information there. You've got gender, job level of the entire membership.
That's a very good for people looking at it. Is that in the membership? Is that publicly available, or is that in your?
That's a good question. I'm hoping that Marlene or Kayla, if they're online, they can answer that question. Because my membership might have just allowed me to get in there. I'm not 100% sure.
That's still important. If not, for people listening, if it's not, I'll certainly work with. Yes, it's a public link, Carla said. Thank you very much. That's I'll just post that.
Excellent.
That's really interesting. So I think that, John, that answers that question perfectly, and it's a lovely segue into my last question, when it said, if we were to sell this as a course as to undergraduates, which faculty? And I thought that was a really interesting question. So that's a good one to finish on the day. I've only got a couple of minutes, but I just thought there was a suggestion there. If we were going to sell it into a university, a tertiary institution, which faculties? Is it in the business area, or is it where would you think? Or do you think there's a role for this in the foundation level to go into the undergraduate level?
That's a very interesting question. So I'm sitting here stewing on it a little bit, but I would, it certainly is a business discipline, but you've got to have a lot of strength on the provider side of the equation. I think it would be a shame to limit this to IT providers. It would be a shame to make this just an IT, something that happens in the information technology space, when it really is valuable for any provider and business relationship that needs to be developed. It works well for HR. It works well for facilities. Multiple different entities. IT has definitely been the biggest player, but I would have to say business, and business administration, business strategy, wherever you can find that fitting, business partnership
Yes.
strategies. I think
Yeah.
that would be a very valuable piece as well.
Well, John,
So
I think
however that fits in. Yeah.
that's a good one to finish off on, and I think I'm just going to, if it's all right, change screen just to finish off because we're just about out of time. I'll
Yeah, absolutely.
bear everyone's forebodings just to actually go a little bit longer. I think one of the things that we've got there is this is sort of where I'm seeing emerging that we have people embedding some of these foundation courses in undergraduate courses, and I think that is a huge potential that we all should look at. And they also have when you see the collaborative nature of the BRMI, they've got an institute so we get them young, get them undergraduates, and I think that's where we might head. So I think that's a very positive finishing note, John. That.
Excellent.
John, thank you very much for your presentation. Everybody, I think I've handled all the questions. I'm multitasking here. There's a few more. I think I've handled most of the questions coming through. Thank you very much for those questions and those chats. Everyone, just to finish on, a reminder for this particular, want some more information about it, click onto this page, and as you can see when you open up the BRM page, there's a wealth of information there, and particularly I'd urge you to have a look at the frequently asked questions. They are incredibly good. If you also want, I'm just going to put up my details. Please make a note of that. Please give me a call, give me an email. I'd be more than happy to assist with any questions. And finally, we thank BRMI. We look forward to spreading the word about BRM Connect. This is from the agenda. Unfortunately, I will be on leave, so I'm not going to be there, but the grab a pizza certainly makes it interesting. And I need some photographs. Can you promise me some photographs, John? The mind boggles. I'd really appreciate it. John, on behalf of everybody, I will close now with, I think we've covered, I'll just check there might be one last question coming through. Altogether, very good. I think we've covered questions. Thank you for your time, everybody. Please make sure that if you are interested, give us an email, give us a contact. And John, I've taken you away. You've got the twilight now looking out on that view, so we should let you go and enjoy it. Once again, thank you everybody. I really appreciate your time.